Okay, video number 2. After we get our lump of clay centered on the wheel, we're going to open it up and make a pot. Now most ceramic shapes start with a cylinder. So the cylinder is the first thing we're going to build. So we have our lump of clay centered, and this size, whatever size that lump of clay that you've centered is, that is going to be the base of the pot as it sits on the table. So you can't, once you start pulling your pot up, once you open it up and pull the sides, you can't change this footprint that sits on the table. So decide if you want to have a small pot that sits on the table, or maybe a larger pot that maybe comes out a little bit. So I'm going to start with that shape. I'm going to let my thumb find the center and push in just a little bit. Okay. The less water you can throw with, the better, but it's nice to be able to, for your fingers to sort of glide on the surface. Once I've found the center, I'm going to go slightly to pick a finger. It doesn't really matter what finger. Some people will use their thumbs. I use a finger. I find the center and I go slightly to the right of center, and then I start to push straight down to open it up. And be careful, you don't want to push too far down that you go right down to the wheel head and then you've just got a tube. You don't have a pot with a bottom to it. Okay, you're going to stop the potter's wheel. You're going to use your pin tool as a pin on the end, squish it right down to the bottom, put your finger on the bottom of the clay and bring it up. Have a look at how much clay you have on the bottom of your pot. Usually about a ½ inch, so maybe a centimeter is good. Any more than that and it might be too heavy. Any less than that and you might end up going right through or have a bottom that cracks. So once you've gone right down, and this is still full speed, as fast as the wheel will go, once you've gone down, then you're gonna pull out. And what we're making a cylinder with a flat bottom and a side that comes straight up. So you're going to go down to that bottom with your finger and try to pull straight across the bottom towards yourself, right towards you. And I use this, I call this my super finger. It's my longest, strongest finger with the other one there, and it's like a super finger. So, and I'm kind of anchoring it with my other finger. Elbows are anchored on my thighs, and I'm going to pull straight out. Okay, and you want to do this slowly and gently so that it doesn't start to wobble. Okay, once you've pulled out as far as you want to go out, you've got to compress the base. So I'm taking my finger and I'm just pushing it back and forth, making the base flat, and also pushing that clay down, making it nice and flat. Nice and compressed. If you don't compress your base, sometimes they tend to crack as they dry. Okay, pick up that water. I'm going to collar it in just a little bit, and I'm going to slow the wheel way down for this next step. Okay, so the next step is we're going to take this, we've got a nice corner here, we're going to take this clay and we're going to pull it straight up. Okay, and so we want flat bottom and straight sides to a cylinder. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one finger on the inside and one finger on the outside. Your outside finger is slightly lower than the inside finger, so it's going to kind of grab the clay, pinch it, and pull it straight up. Try not to pull it out, pull it straight up, even angle it in just a little bit. Slow it down and you pull up the speed of the wheel. Elbows anchored, pulling up, doing one revolution. Every time it comes around, you're moving up. So if the wheel is going faster, I pull up faster. If the wheel is going slower, I pull up slower. Okay, so now I've thinned the walls and I pulled them up and it got taller and it got thinner because I'm taking that clay and I'm stretching it and I'm pulling it up. Once I get to the top here, I'm going to stop, let my fingers rest there, and gently take them off. You don't go all the way to the top. If you go all the way to the top and you're squeezing, sometimes you pinch too hard and you make a little thin spot. Okay? Every time you do a pull, you have to compress your lip. Okay, so take that little extra clay. We leave a little bit of extra clay on the top just to hold everything together so it doesn't start to get floppy on us. So we give it a little pinch there and a little push there just to compress that clay. Okay, then I'm going to get the walls wet inside and out, so my fingers slide. Slow that down just a little bit more. And outside finger lower. You can see that my inside finger is pushing out the clay and my outside finger is pushing it back in place. Feels like I have an air bubble in this clay, but I'm just going to keep working with it. Gently take my fingers off at the end, almost at the top, compress that lip. Okay, if I end up with any water on the inside, I always want to pick that up. You don't want the inside to get spongy and soft, and if it starts to come out too much, you just collar it back in. Okay, so then I'm going to put some water inside, some water outside, and I'm going to do another pull. Straight up, nice and slow. See how my fingers are working together almost as one hand? Get almost to the top and gently let go, compress that lip. Okay, we've almost got our cylinder created here. Pick up the water if there's any inside, and we'll do one last pull, and then we can start doing some shaping and take it off the wheel. Okay, so we're going to do one last pull. Take that thick clay at the bottom, bring it up, gently take my fingers off, compress that lip, pick up that water. Okay, now if I want this to be a coffee mug, the last thing I'm going to do when the walls are as thin as I want it to be is to thin out that lip. Okay, and what we want is we want this to be even thickness all the way down. All the way down, even thickness. Okay, we'll take our wooden knife, this knife right here, we're going to take that and put it right on the side of the cup. Let's see, you can see it if I do it here. I'm going to dig that in right there, right down to the wheel head. Take off that flange of clay that we don't need. Stop the wheel, pull that off. Now we don't have to trim that off. It's a nice, clean, neat shape. Okay, so if I want to, I can play with the shape a little bit now that I've got the walls even thickness. If I push in just with the inside finger towards this outside finger, I can belly it out a little bit. I'm pushing with my inside finger, and I can collar it in from the outside and make it a little bit narrower there. Narrow my lip, because when you're drinking out of a coffee cup, you don't want a great big fat lip. And there it's done. It's ready to take off the wheel. So when you're ready to take it off the wheel, you're going to take your wire, wrap it around your fingers, put your thumbs on top, stop your wheel, and just pull it right through. Okay? Then what you'll do is you'll throw some water down and slide it over so that you can catch it in your hand and then put it on a wear board. I'm going to cut this in half and show you what the inside looks like. Okay, so from the inside we have more or less even thickness to the walls. When we're trimming later on, we can take a little bit of that clay off. We can come in here and trim a little bit of that off there and trim a little bit of a foot into that by turning the pot upside down when it's a little bit more dry and trimming that off. So then you end up with a pot that has really even walls and even base. That will make for even drying, so you don't end up with a pot that cracks as it dries, right? And if you are not going to keep this, you make it into a Mickey Mouse Highway, let it dry for a little while, and it'll be ready to throw into another pot. sooner than later.